All right, so today what we're going to be looking at is actually writing the script and how do we write the script. So when I kind of sit down and get ready to write an actual screenplay, the first thing I do is I sit there and I think about what those traditional beats and moments are in the actual story. So if you need to go back and reflect on that, go ahead and hit the story lecture again. And kind of what I would do is actually write down those traditional moments that we go over that happen in Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Once you do that, then you can kind of start kind of thinking of what your A storyline is going to be and then kind of filling in those beats along with that A storyline. So for example, I went ahead and I took an idea that I had in my head of an A storyline. The title is just called You, and what it basically was is watching my kids play baseball. I wanted to kind of write something geared towards kids and the kids' imagination. And what it stemmed from was one day my youngest child was finishing up t-ball, and he came off, and he was really proud of his hits and how he played. And my oldest son, who's 11, asked my youngest, so who do you want to be, when you play baseball? And, I was expecting a response of Jose Bautista, actually, because that was his favorite baseball player. But no, he looked at his older brother and he said, you. So that's where this kind of idea stemmed from, was just that one little incident. And we talked about, coming up with story ideas where they can come from. This one actually came from my kids. Now, I typically write in the horror genre. I like making horror films, science fiction films, things like that. But for me, this was kind of this sweet moment. And I've just had it kind of logged in my head. And I thought, well, maybe now's the time to write it. So that was my A storyline, or my starting point for it, was just this interaction that my two kids had. So what I did is I went ahead, and knowing that I wanted that to kind of be my button or the end of my story, I went ahead and plotted out basically a baseball story. So I just simply put, introduction of my hero and location is going to have my son sitting down, putting on his batting gloves, an elbow guard, and then he puts on his helmet, and he walks down the line, team high fives him, grabs his bat and walks out of the dugout. So that's that shift and transition from Act 1 to Act 2, right? That's that change in status quo. He's in a dugout, and now all of a sudden he's having to go out and face a pitcher. And then my Act 2, it's him walking to the plate, digging in. First pitch is for a strike, looking. Second is a foul ball, so that's trial 1, trial 2. And then I have trial 3 being just a ball. And then kind of that last kind of shift from Act 2 to Act 3, where I defeat my hero, I have a high inside pitch, which knocks him to the ground. So he falls to the ground to avoid it. Act 3 is getting ready for the climax, is he gets up, he dusts himself off, digs back in at the plate, stands in, and then he hits the ball hard. What I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to do a match action cut as he finishes his swing. So as he goes through his swing, I'm going to do a match action cut to my younger child standing in an empty plate on an empty field, and it's him actually finishing the swing. So all this has actually been in his imagination. Then he's going to run the bases, and when he comes back, his brother's waiting for him, and he just kind of approaches him and asks, tells him that the ball went really far, and asks, who were you, Judge or Stanton or Harper or whoever. I haven't decided which baseball players' names I'm going to use. I'll probably ask them tonight which ones they want. And he looks at his brother and just says, you. And then that's where the story ends. So it's a very simple story. It's a very simple A storyline. And again, it just stems from where you can come up with those story ideas of hearing my kids talk and watching them play sports. That's all that I needed to come up with this idea in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this kind of beat sheet that I wrote out, and I'm going to then try and write it into a script format with obviously action description as well as dialogue. I'm going to try and make it rich in detail so that when you write, you want to write as if somebody else is going to make the movie. So I'm going to make it as descriptive as possible and kind of have emotion and have the image jump off the page at the reader. The software that I'm going to be using is going to be Final Draft 11. It's the one that I like to use. I believe I had talked in the screenwriting section about Final Draft being an option, as well as Celtex being an option for script writing software. So as you can see, it kind of comes up on the screen here. I'll kind of walk briefly through what the software is and how it functions. So what you'll see here is kind of this, blank page. So you're going to be the one who's responsible for filling it with information and writing this screen story. So this section is going to be where all your information, your slug lines, your action, your dialogue is going to be. This navigator over here allows you to look at scenes, navigate through the script. This is really good for when you have a feature to be able to jump from scene to scene if you need to. So when you look at the actual software itself, you've got your different views split. If you're going to collaborate, you have your title page here, and then you have basically where your elements are. So you have your general elements, you have your scene heading, you have your action, you have character, parenthetical, dialogue, and transition. Those are the main ones that you use when you're writing a screenplay. So your scene heading is going to be your slug lines. Your action is going to be the action description, what's happening in the story. Your character is going to be the character name that comes prior to dialogue. Parentheticals are going to be line delivery suggestions, and then dialogue is going to be the actual words that are being said by the characters on screen. Transition is usually right justified, and what that's going to be is if you're wanting to add in a specific transition. Now, as a screenwriter, I typically don't write in transitions unless I'm wanting to do a dissolve to show a passage of time. In the case of this script, I will actually put in a transition. I will put in a match action cut to his younger brother swinging the bat at the end. So when you look at that, those basic, sections, this is where you can access them here within the software. You can also access them by using Enter or Tab once you start writing the actual script. So I'm just going to start off with fade in. All scripts start with fade in. And you can see the second I hit Enter, it's going to kick me right to an immediate start of a slug line. And that's what's great about screenwriting software. It's kind of intuitive. It's going to help you out kind of work through, the formatting of the actual script. And format is really, really, really important. Now, I'm going to use a slug line for basically every time I change location. Even though the dugout is outside, I'm going to put a slug line in for the dugout, and then I'm going to put a slug line in for the batter's box. And I'm going to put a slug line in if there's anything else that I'm going to cut to, just to make it evident that we're going to this area of the field or we're going to this portion. So I'm going to go exterior. I'm going to hit tab. And I'm just going to put dugout. And for now, I'm going to put day. I don't know when I'm going to be able to shoot this or how I'm going to be able to shoot that. And you can see it kind of populate over here too into the Navigator. So we can see scene 1, location dugout. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. I hit enter again, and it's immediately going to take me to the action section. So anytime, again, you hit enter, it's usually going to take you to action. If I hit enter again, it would bring up, my options for my elements. But obviously, I want to be working within action, so I'm going to stay within action. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something just a little bit creative here. I'm going to actually delete this, and I'm going to change this to action. Because what I actually want to do is I'm going to start with sound. So I'm going to use a sound transition over black, and the sound is going to then fade in to the first image. So the sound I'm going to use is going to be him putting on the glove. So it's going to be the strapping of Velcro. All right, so I'm going to start it, as I said, with the strapping of Velcro is heard over the sounds of a youth baseball game. Now, if you hear music in the background, not sure if you can in recording, I actually like to listen to music while I write, and I try and find music that kind of fits what I'm writing. So in the case of this, what I actually have going on sound-wise, music-wise in the background is actually the score from The Natural, and then I'll probably slide over to the score from Moody, just because, writing a sports story, you might as well have sports information up. So here, I'm going to make sure I'm in action. Okay, now we're going to go back to scene heading, and I'm going to start with that EXT. I'm just going to put dugout, day. Desmond, notice it's in all caps. Anytime you first mention a character, we're going to put it in all caps. And the same goes for up here, where I have strapping in all caps. I'm drawing attention to the sound. sounds of a youth baseball game, drawing attention to the sound. And what I'm actually going to do for the sounds of a youth baseball game, I'm just going to bring a recorder to the field, and while they're playing, I'm just going to go ahead and record all the sounds of the game. So Desmond is our main character. He's putting on his batting gloves. See, I'm human too. I make mistakes, spelling all the time. Remember, red squiggly lines means it is misspelled. He is about 11 years old. And skinny. Again, brief character description. Desmond has a look of fear with underlying determination. So again, just giving some direction to the director of what he might want to be getting out of the actor. He straps on his elbow guard, not a gird, guard, and places his helmet on his head. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter because this is where I'm going to have him kind of getting up. So we have kind of a shift in action. So rather than having a large chunk of action, because I'm having a shift and I'm going to introduce the characters of his team, I'm going to go ahead and have that action break, have that action kind of come down into a new paragraph. Another reason that I might do this in the case of this script is it's going to be read by kids. So I really want to make it short and sweet so they can understand what's happening. Desmond rises to his feet and starts the long walk to the entrance of the dugout. As he passes by his, again, teammates, right? I'm going to put it in all caps because it's the first time we introduced them. Some high five, while others have their head down. Desmond grabs his bat and walks out of the dugout. So this is basically my first act. I'm introducing my main character and my location, right? And actually kind of introducing the A storyline, right? It's this kid who's getting up to bat through some of his teammates kind of giving him a high five and some having their head down. That lets you know that maybe they're losing the game, right? So it gives you some inclination without saying exactly everything that's going on, what kind of is going on. So here I'm going to enter. Again. I'm going to go to my scene heading, and this is going to be exterior baseball field, and I'm just going to go continuous. And see, it even pops up for you. So what that means is that this is continuously happening right after the previous slug line. Desmond walks to the batter's box and digs in. Right foot, then left. He winds up his bat as he looks at the pitcher. Now I'm going to again hit enter because I'm going to have a different action that happens here. So as he's doing this, I'm going to introduce the pitcher. So here, the pitcher receives the ball from the first baseman. He looks toward the plate and steps on the mound. His hand is behind his back with the ball. Glove in front. The umpire, again introducing another character, hopefully I can find an umpire when I decide to shoot this, signals to the pitcher that the play is now live. Okay, that's basically the umpire pointing at the pitcher and telling him, all right, you're good. The pitcher waits for the signs, acknowledges them, and comes set. So here what that is I'm telling him that the pitcher's watching, right? He's got the ball behind, he's got the glove down in front, nods at the signs, comes set with the ball. Desmond is calmly shaking his bat, getting ready to load for a hit. So what that means is he's kind of just relaxing himself, shaking the bat up top, getting ready. He is focused. Again, giving subtle direction to what we're wanting to see out of the face of the characters. The pitcher begins his wind up and delivers the ball to home. Strike. Now, I'm going to come over here, umpire. So all I did was hit enter, tab, and it took me right to the character. And you can see it right up here, where it shifted the element that we're working with and shifted to character. I'm just going to put umpire. Strike. And actually I'm going to add a little bit of action here because obviously I'm going to cut to Desmond at this point. Desmond watches the ball come in. Strike. Umpire yells strike. The catcher, and I have not mentioned the catcher yet, delivers the ball back to the pitcher. So again, anytime first mention a character, we're going to go ahead and put that in all caps. The pitcher catches it and steps back on the mound. Ball behind him. Glove down in front. He takes the sign, nods, and gets ready to deliver the baseball. And actually, I'm going to add something else here. So I just added that Desmond acknowledges the strike. Again, it's one of those things as you start to write, it's okay to go back, it's okay to change things, okay to alter things, okay to add things. And one of the things I'm already finding myself doing as I'm sitting here and writing this is that I'm actually putting more time into the picture and not into our protagonist or our main character. So I've got to go back and kind of rework that a little bit. And that's okay to do. So, whenever you start to write, it's okay to go back, it's okay to rewrite, it's okay to alter, it's okay to modify. It's okay to, completely scrap the idea. If you're not happy with the idea, you can get rid of the idea and move on and try something else. So here we have in this one, the catcher delivers the ball back to the pitcher. The pitcher catches it and steps back on the mound. Ball behind him, glove down in front. He takes the sign, nods, and gets ready to deliver the baseball. Now, with the taking the sign, as I'm thinking of this and looking at it as a director, what it does is it gives me a lot of leeway as a director, right? I can either show a sign, I can show the catcher. There's a lot of shots that I can get with it. So when I go out and shoot this, it will depend on, how the kids react, how they're acting, as to what I will actually go ahead and shoot. But he takes the sign, nods, and gets ready to deliver the baseball. Now, if you remember, when I talked about Act 2, so I've covered the introduction of the characters in Act 1, specifically our protagonist. I've showed the location, the situation, and it ends with him grabbing his bat and walking out of the dugout. Act 2, he walks to the plate and digs in. That's that kind of complication or after the aftermath scene, right? So when he walks out, everything's changed, and it's him digging and getting ready. Pitch for a strike is the first, and trial 2 is going to be a foul ball. So again, I'm just following my actual kind of beat sheet that I laid out prior to, and I'm just kind of now populating this blank canvas with the story idea. I'm just going to put Desmond digs in again. The pitcher delivers, and Desmond swings, fouling off the ball out of play. Right? Okay, so he's fouled off the ball. Next action is going to be the umpire hands the catcher a new ball. He throws it to the pitcher. Desmond steps out of the batter's box and takes a swing. The umpire holds up his hands. No fingers on one and two on the other. Again, I'm going to go back to dialogue. I'm just going to tab over umpire, see it remembers his name, and I go 0-2. So again, just kind of moving right through my story idea. Okay, that was the foul ball. Next trial is going to be a ball in the dirt. Again, the challenge is as I'm starting to come up with this idea and as I'm writing this, is I'm thinking, how am I going to get the kids to do this stuff? So going back to trial 3. So he stepped out, took a swing. Umpire holds up his hands. 0-2. Desmond steps back into the box. The pitcher receives the signs, readies, and delivers the ball. The ball, actually what we're going to do is we're going to go Desmond at this point. Desmond loads and lunges forward, ready to swing. The ball dives into the dirt. Desmond holds his swing at the last moment. The catcher digs the ball out of the dirt and throws it back to the pitcher. So one of the things that as I'm writing is that I'm starting to think about is maybe introducing the younger brother earlier. I'm just trying to think of where to do that. Or do I just play this as, that it's we get the button at the end that it's all been in his younger brother's mind. So I'm kind of stuck on that as I'm writing this. I'm not sure which one I want to do or how I want to do it. So for now, I'm actually just going to continue writing forward. So again, these are all kind of things that are going to come up when you start writing and when you get into this. And it's okay. It's normal, man, for you to come up with different ideas, to come up with, start to question a little bit of what you're doing, whether you're doing it right or not. And that's fine. So please, as you do that, don't get frustrated by that. Understand that's normal. I've been writing scripts for over 15 years, and every script I write, it goes through multiple rewrites, goes through multiple changes, and a lot of times, even when I get on set and I get ready to shoot, and we get into shooting, I'm going to change it again. I'm going to modify it, alter it for a number of different reasons. Maybe the scene's not working. Maybe I realize I don't really need this scene. But in the case of this, I'm talking to you guys as these ideas are popping into my head. So I really don't know if I'm going to add him in sooner. I'm probably going to keep him out because I do like that reveal at the end without us knowing that it's a child's imagination. So anyway, I'll continue writing. Again, just all the different things that come into your head as you're writing, at least come into my head. So the catcher digs the ball out of the dirt and throws it back to the pitcher. The pitcher shakes his head. Desmond swings the bat forward, readying himself for the next pitch. The pitcher gets the signs and comes set and delivers the ball to the plate. The pitch rises as Desmond loads to swing. It rises high and inside. Desmond turns away from the pitch and to the dirt. The snap of the catcher's mitt can be heard as he's falling to the ground. And I'm just going to put umpire. Ball. So that's going to happen kind of off screen, right? Like we're not going to hear that happen. And I kind of don't want this to be... I guess it's fine. I'm not quite sure why it's continuing a conversation here. Actually, I'm just going to change this to off screen so we don't see him. So that's what OS is off screen. So ball. And it really wants me to have this continued. All right. Desmond looks up slowly. He rises, dusting himself off. The slight look of fear is replaced by a calmness So he gets up, dusts himself off, kind of looks. Ooh, I like that. Take a breath. He takes a breath. Desmond repositions himself in the batter's box. He is ready. The pitcher gets the signs. Comes set. Breathes. And delivers to the plate. Desmond swings. Crack. The bat connects soundly with the ball. The ball flies into the sky. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over. Sorry. Hit enter, enter. I'm going to go down to a transition. And I'm going to put match, cut to Grayson. Sorry. Exterior. Baseball field. And I'm just going to put continuous because it's happening at the same time. Grayson, all caps. Anytime you first mention a character, all caps. Grayson, a boy about 5 or 6, finishes the swing. Empty-handed. Really want it to be that he's imagining all of this, right? So empty-handed. He watches the imaginary ball sail through the air. He drops the imaginary bat. Pumps his fist and starts to round the bases. Now I'm going to add here another slug line because this is where I want to bring his actual brother back into it. I'm just going to put exterior dugout. Dugout continuous. So he's watching right from the dugout. Desmond walks to the fence and slowly to the entrance of the dugout. He is watching his brother round the bases. I'm going to go to a new scene heading. Okay, I'm going to do exterior. Again, baseball field. Again, continuous. Grayson rounds the bases like he won the game. He approaches home plate and 1, 2 stomps on the plate. He turns and sees Desmond. Desmond puts his hand over his eyes and tracks the ball through the air with a slight whistle. So what that is I want him to be like, so that's what I'm trying to describe. Obviously, being the director of it, I want to make sure that I'm communicating this to the kids, as they're acting. But, if this were going to somebody else, I'm hoping that they can read this, understand it, and then be able to decipher what specifically I meant to have happen at this point. And back to it. Grayson smiles. Desmond walks up to Grayson. Desmond. That went far. Grayson smiles bigger. Desmond gets down on his knee. Desmond. So, who were you? Harper. Judge. Tuve. Grayson. Smiling. Grayson. You. Desmond smiles. Rises up. Holds his brother's hand, and they walk away. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a transition. Whenever you finish your script, you want to make sure that the reader understands that it's final, that it's over, that it's done. And the best way to do that is to put in fade to black, period. You can do fade out or fade to black, but fade to black really is the finality. That lets everyone know that it's over. So boom, fade to black. And that is it. That is the end of the story. So you can see it's a 3-page script. We can see where kind of the story goes, the button kind of at the end. It's one of the best things you can do in writing a short story or a short script is add something at the end that kind of torques the entire thing, twists the entire thing. And you can see it's just a very simple 3-page script. Lets you know what characters I need, written in Final Draft 11. And, one of the things I'll do is I'll print this up. I'm going to take this home. I'm going to reread it. I'm going to look at it. Might add some things to it. Might take some things away from it. But overall, I'm actually happy with the idea. I'm happy with the script. So this was just kind of a little bit of a walkthrough of kind of what goes through your head and some issues you may run into. And I just wanted to show you guys how I sit down and write a script. Key for me, number one, is making sure that I plan it out a little bit prior to. Now, I'm not overly detailed, and you don't have to be overly detailed with your beat sheet or how you're matching those beats, but it's really important for you to go into it with a good, solid idea of how your story is going to play out. And then, I let it kind of fill out its own. It doesn't say in here that they smile at each other. The dialogue's not written in here. But, it's just a very simple kind of layout. And then I let my mind kind of take me where it wants to go and where the story wants to go. When you get into longer writing, your characters are going to take you where they want to take you. And that's one of those things when you look at screenwriting itself that's really hard, is you have to allow yourself a certain amount of planning, but also a certain amount of creativity. So you kind of have to be able to let your mind go, let your mind wander, and let the characters kind of breathe life into the story themselves. One of the things when I just look at this that I probably can do a little bit better at is maybe giving a little bit more personality to the pitcher in particular. But in my head, I'm kind of flip-flopping between actually having my son play both the both the pitcher and the batter. But I mean, writing a script is fun, and I want you guys to have fun with this project, and I want you to kind of, go ahead and throw yourself into it and do something different. Challenge yourself, try and write a story that can be fun or light, and then think about while you're writing it, how are you going to shoot this? What's it going to be like to shoot it? Because that's the next step. Is you then take, the device you have available to you, whether it be your phone, whether it be a camera, you can use whatever you want. But I urge you to try and use your phone. I'm actually going to shoot this with my iPhone 8 Plus. Again, this is just a little bit of the kind of how to write a script. I hope you learned something from it. Now it's your turn. Write your script, look at it, revise it, and submit it via the portal. Thanks for watching.